first, well. It took a minute. They had me in the first half. They certainly had most of the NBA world in the first half, but it would appear the Golden State Warriors are in a position very similar to this.
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
Yep, the Golden State Warriors are more than back. They get a win last night over the Los Angeles Lakers. They do so by a final score of 128-110, and they look fantastic. They're playing outstanding basketball, and there's a lot of reasons for it. So, y'all know, certainly I would think by now the YouTube audience is in on the secret. It's not that much of a secret that I'm a Warriors fan. Wearing a Warriors hoodie today to commemorate the fact that we're playing great basketball. And listen, I am not going to get up here and play revisionist history. I'm not going to do that because my show is on tape. It's on YouTube. It's anywhere you get your podcast. The stuff I say lives forever. So I'm not going to act like in the past, in the last few months, I wasn't on the brink, never went so far as to say it, but on the brink where I'm like, man, if the Warriors don't make some deals at the deadline, gosh, this dynasty is currently constructed, man. Could be it. Most, I will not go to all is a very strong word, but most in the NBA media were of the mindset, and have been for 5 years now, really 4.5 years, if we're going to go back to the 2019 finals, or the end of it at least, that the dynasty was over. Run was over. Of course, that got debunked in 2022 when the Warriors ran through the Western Conference, beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games to get a 4th title in 8 years to that point. And I did predict this team to win the championship before the season for many reasons. A, the biggest locker room issue, maybe in the entire NBA, Jordan Poole was out of a locker room. He's in Washington. He just got benched, if you didn't see that last night for the Wizards. I also like the addition of Chris Paul coming off the bench as your 6th man. I think when you got one of the best point guards in NBA history as your first guy off the bench, you're in pretty good shape. I thought the depth was there with the youth, with the veterans. They added size. In the draft, they had a good draft with Pajemski and with Trace Jackson Davis. And I thought Kuminga would develop. I thought Clay would ball out, given his contract year. Clay, come off the bench, that's more of a role that's better suited for him. Pajemski fits better with the starting lineup. There's no question about that. That's why Kerr's basically made it completely permanent. Permanent is probably the right word to use when you consider where Golden State's looking at. Kerr all but alluded to that the other day. Draymond Green, as I'll detail in just a second, is still one of the most impactful players in all of basketball, and they just so happen to have the second best player in the league. His name is Steph Curry, and Steph, by the way, last night slowed down a little bit in the second half, but in totality played a very, very good basketball game, an excellent one at that. 32 points on 12 of 24 from the field, 6 of 13 from 3. He had 8 assists in the game, set the tone for Golden State, and the Warriors rolled to a win over the Lakers, albeit without LeBron James in the lineup. But if you look at the Warriors over the first 43 games of the season, really from opening night all the way to that double overtime loss to the Lakers, more on that in just a second, but in that stretch, 43 games, so right at halfway through the season, one look at so hot in Golden State. Now, they were scoring relatively well. 8 points per game, 8th in points per game, 11th in offensive rating, 4th in rebounds per game, 4th in offensive rebounds per game, 6th in assists per game. The problem, though, for Golden State was they couldn't guard me. 24th in defensive rating, 23rd in points given up per game, 18th in net rating, and they had the 21st best record in the NBA. So, in other words, they were an excellent offensive team and couldn't stop anybody defensively. What you're going to see, and what I'm about to show you from the next 11 games, following that, the last 11 games rather, is that the offense has gotten better, but because they were top 10 in virtually every statistical category, there wasn't that much to improve from. So the offense has gotten slightly better, and the defense is night and day. We could show you the numbers right here, okay? They got the 3rd in the last 11 games. Golden State ranks 3rd in offensive rating, 2nd in points per game, 1st in rebounds per game. Yeah, I've been told that Golden State, they're a little team. They just can't compete with the big boys. Funny, they have more rebounds than anybody in the stretch. 6th in offensive rebounds per game, number 1 in the NBA in assists per game. That goes right up Steve Kerr's alley. 3rd in defensive rating. 10th in points given up per game. So top 10 defense in that regard. 3rd in the NBA in net rating, and they're tied with the best record in basketball at 9-2. And I'm sure you see that little asterisk at the bottom, that little star down there on the graphic. If you're watching the show on YouTube or on Twitter, the Warriors had the 6th easiest strength of schedule remaining, which is important because Golden State right now is the 10 seed. Half game back of the Lakers for the 9 seed. That's why last night's win was really important. And a whole 4 games back of the 6 seed. When the reason the 6 seed is important was because 6 seed and above does not have to participate in the NBA play-in tournament. So regular season ends on a Sunday in mid-April. You get a week, 6 days to 7 days. So basically a week off before your next basketball game. Heal up, get your health right instead of having to playing do or die basketball games, sort of win or go home type of contest against like the Lakers, the Kings, Dallas, Phoenix are kind of in that mix right now if Utah potentially sneaks in later this season. So in other words, Golden State has been arguably the best team in basketball over the last 11 games. That's not a small sample size, folks. That's a nice chunk over the last month or so. But the reason I brought up, when I mentioned the first 43 games, the reason I brought up from opening night to the double overtime loss to the Lakers. You remember that game? First of all, probably the best game all season long in the NBA. It was, whether you're rooting for the Warriors, the Lakers, Steph, LeBron, doesn't matter. That was the game of the year. Double overtime, both teams hitting clutch shots. Again, shot making in general from Golden State and from LA is just off the charts great. There's controversial calls, there's technicals, there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening, and headlining, of course, were Steph and LeBron. 2 guys I still believe to be the best player, not the best players, the most important players and the faces still of the NBA. But the Lakers win that game because LeBron, with 4 seconds left, takes the ball, drives the basket, gets fouled, hits 2 clutch free throws to win it for the Lakers. That was after Steph hit a bomb 3 with 4.5 seconds left to put the Warriors up by 1. Then LeBron breaks mine and every other Warriors fan's hearts by hitting those 2 free throws, and the Lakers win. And Steph Curry, who's not an emotional player, I mean, is an exuberant player, but not an overly emotional player. There's a difference. After the game, he looks pissed as you know what, daps up LeBron, talks to him for a few seconds, doesn't shake any other Lakers' hand, doesn't talk to anybody, doesn't acknowledge his teammates, his coaches, nothing. That is not Steph, if we've watched him long enough. Walks to the locker room and tears his jersey in half. He's pissed, crazy pissed about the outcome of that game, in large part because of how the previous 42 games to that point have played out. Golden State could score on anybody, and anybody could score on them. I think that was the turning point. Because I think when that video, which, again, there's a video that came out immediately after on Twitter, on all the social platforms, Steph is not an in-your-face type of guy. That's more what Draymond Green is there for. I could see that being a moment where Warriors teammates, they're on their phones, they're on social media. They're not, listen, when athletes tell you they're tuning out the noise, it's in 2024, that's virtually impossible unless you don't have a device near you. Okay, they're lying to you. Warriors players saw that and were like, dang, even Steph is kind of losing his temper. We need to step it up. We need to play better defense. And again, we'll show you, forget the other stats on offense and whatnot. Defensive stats, we can show you from, where's the first stat? From the first 43 games of the season. Okay, so the Warriors go from a 24th in defensive rating, 23rd in points given up, to 3rd in defensive rating and 10th in points given up, which is massive. It's a massive gap. It's like going from one of the worst defensive teams to one of the best and most efficient defensive teams in basketball. And it's why I said, coming into the season, I thought they could win the championship. But the more I thought about it, what was the issue, even more so, not just with the defense, but in general? Because so many times I'd watch a Warriors game, and I watch every dribble of every game like the rest of Dub Nation does. And I'm like, what is going on with this team? They're losing these clutch games. They're right there with some of the best in all basketball. I mean, they beat the Celtics. They were in 3, not 1, not 2, 3 dogfight games with the defending champion Denver Nuggets. They could have won any 3 of them. One was a close loss in Denver. Steph missed a layup that would have tied it. The second one was a Christmas Day game that was nip and tuck. Denver made a few plays at the end. And the third one was in Golden State, and Jokic hit a ridiculous game-winning shot from half court to win it. So Golden State's on the doorsteps of the best. They just couldn't close. Kerr, Draymond, Steph, Chris Paul all but swore, guys, we're going to get this right. Kerr is like, I know we have it in this team. I know we've got what it takes to get to the next level. And to the point where I'm like, is he gaslighting us? Is he trying to help his team? Does he really believe this? Who am I to doubt Steve Kerr? One of the 3 best coaches in basketball, frankly, along with, to me, Ty Lue and Eric Spoelstra. What was the issue, though, for Golden State that plagued them, though, in the first 43 games that have seemingly gone poof in the last 11? You say their defense. Correct, but deeper than that. They were missing, over a big chunk of those 43 games, the second most important player to the dynasty. Steph is Steph. We know who he is. That's not Klay Thompson. That's not Iguodala. That's not, Harrison Barnes or Sean Livingston. No. It's Draymond Green. And everybody, last season and this season in particular, when Draymond put himself in position to get suspended the first time when he choked Rudy Gobert, which I said the next day on the show, I absolutely defend him. That action, he choked Rudy too long because Rudy's about to choke old Klay. Draymond not going to let Rudy do that to his teammate. He'd be a bad teammate if he didn't interject. He just choked him too long. Could have choked the guy out. Not cool. The second time, unprovoked, punches Yusuf Nurkic, which gets him an indefinite suspension. That was the key in Golden State. The emotional catalyst, the guy who makes this team work on offense and on defense, was not there. We can show you. I keep hearing, Draymond, the juice is not worth the squeeze. He's more trouble than he's worth. Really? Let's look at those numbers, shall we? Golden State with Draymond Green, 5th in offensive rating, 4th in points per game. They are 1st in rebounds per game, 2nd in assists per game, 11th in defensive rating, 16th in points allowed. That's not great, but you're going to see it gets even worse without him. Net rating, tied for 5th in the NBA, and they have the 14th best record when he's healthy. Now, some of those numbers, you're like, 16th, 14th, 11th. Like, what is that? Well, it gets worse. Literally every number gets worse when he leaves. So the Warriors go from being the 5th best offensive team with him to, without him, the 6th best offensive team. So there's a drop there, but it's like, okay, I'll sacrifice a little offense if it means we get more points per game and whatnot. Points per game goes down from 4th to 9th. Rebounds per game goes down from 1st to 8th. Assists per game, this is without Draymond Green, ladies and gentlemen. Assists per game goes down from 2nd to 7th. Defensive rating, with Draymond Green, the Warriors are the 11th best defensive team in basketball. Without him, they're the single worst defensive team in the NBA. Points per game allowed, they go from 16th to 24th. Net rating, they go from tied with the 5th best net rating in basketball to tied with the 21st best net rating in basketball. And they go from having the 14th best record in basketball to having the 20th best record in basketball. Case in point, bottom line, Draymond Green's still valuable. The Warriors are 10-5 since he's come back. The defense has gotten exponentially better. Ball movement has gotten better, as reflected in large part by the assist numbers you just saw there. This team, when healthy, can beat anybody in the Western Conference in a 7-game series. As a matter of fact, I still think Denver's the favorite to win the West. They're the defending champions. They're healthy. They have virtually everybody from the team last year outside of Bruce Brown. Jokic, I think, is still the best player in the world. Malone's a great coach. Playoff Jamal Murray is a real thing. Aaron Gordon, size, length, defense, offense, the whole bit. I got Golden State second. Don't trust Minnesota whatsoever in the playoffs. I don't trust Rudy Gobert. Don't trust Karl-Anthony Towns. Don't trust Chris Finch. All three of them have very, very checkered playoff pasts. Like Mike Conley, but he's getting up there in age. Anthony Edwards is excellent. He is excellent. I got no doubts about him. The rest, I like OKC. I listed them as a contender on Wednesday's show, but they're kids. SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. Even their coach, Dagnall's pretty young. Clippers, really. So we're going to buy into the Clippers over the Golden State Warriors. We're going to do that, are we? A Kawhi Leonard who's physically unreliable in the playoffs. A James Harden who's, I don't know if it's psychologically. It's certainly not his ability, because his ability, makes him an all-star virtually every year of his career. Harden in the playoffs is a disaster. Paul George struggles to stay healthy in the playoffs. Westbrook doesn't have the greatest postseason history, so we're going to trust the Clippers over Golden State. So we're going to do that. Pelicans, like them. I actually think they're fringe contenders. Zion has yet to play a playoff game. This Pelicans team, this group has yet to win a single playoff series. Sacramento, Golden State beat them when their locker room was a disaster a year ago. Still beat the Sacramento Kings, who are as good this year. Phoenix, I love Kevin Durant. I'm worried about him physically. I'm even more worried about Bradley Beal physically. And Booker's excellent, but he's not a true point guard, which they don't have. And I don't trust them on the defensive end of the floor. Lakers, I'll about to talk about LeBron and Steph later in terms of title odds for the two of those guys, for LeBron and Steph. But LeBron's 39. AD, we know, can be, and to his credit, he's been physically reliable to this point. We don't know if that's going to be the case in April beyond that. Bench, good, like their roster. Don't trust Darvin Ham. You're telling me a team with Steph Curry, with Draymond Green, who the numbers and the eye test and the film, everything clearly bear out. He's an integral part of this Golden State team and still one of the most valuable players in all of basketball. Jonathan Kuminga gets better every time he steps on the floor. Andrew Wiggins has been exponentially better in this 11-game stretch. Now that he's back at the starting lineup with a lineup that works for him. Brandon Pajemski's a home run draft pick, as is Trace Jackson Davis. Bench is excellent. Chris Paul, by the way, coming back from injury. Gary Payton coming back from an illness. Steve Kerr's the coach. Yeah, Golden State is bare minimum, knock on wood for health, going to be in the Western Conference Finals. Bare minimum. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.